Luckily, she had almost limitless reserves of patience. She spent 8 years working in unsatisfying jobs before she could get to college. Later, she took almost 4 years to isolate her new element, radium. What stands out in her story is the amount of persistent hard work that science can entail. As Marie herself put it, a great discovery does not issue from a scientist's brain ready-made. It is the fruit of an accumulation of preliminary work. Or, in other words, a great scientist is never an overnight success. It takes years of hard work, as well as taking advantage of the hard work of other great scientists who came before. As Isaac Newton said in his famous quote, he was able to see further, thanks to his debts to others. So who helped Marie to see further? Robert Boyle, for one, who was an English natural philosopher working at the same time as Newton. The word scientist wasn't coined until 1834. Although he worked as an alchemist, searching for a way to change worthless metals into gold, Boyle also compiled an important book on chemistry. In 1661, in The Skeptical Chemist, he laid down some of the preliminaries of this new field, including the definition of an element, any substance that can't be broken down into a simpler substance. Chemistry took a giant leap forward in the next century, with Frenchman Antoine Laurent Lavoisier. In command of the best private laboratory in the world, Lavoisier wrote Elementary Treatise of Chemistry in 1789, providing a much more detailed definition of what constitutes an element, and proposing the first table of known elements. 5 years later, after the French Revolution, the unfortunate Lavoisier, a well-off tax collector, was sent to the guillotine. Dmitri Mendeleev was able to stand on Lavoisier's shoulders, even though the Frenchman's head was no longer attached to them. In 1869, this Russian chemist wrote The Principles of Chemistry. Inspired by his favorite game, solitaire, Mendeleev set up a table or grid to organize the elements. He used a method similar to the way a solitaire player lays out cards, by suit in horizontal rows, by number in vertical columns. Each row of his table he called a period. Establishing a pattern, he devised what we call the periodic table of all the known elements. In Mendeleev's time, some 60 elements were officially recognized, like oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and uranium, discovered in 1798. The table we use today comes from his table. By Marie's day, the climate for scientists in France had vastly improved since the time of the Revolution. In part, this was due to the great Louis Pasteur, who in 1868 revolutionized medicine by discovering that bacteria could cause disease. A French national hero, Pasteur inspired Marie by calling labs sacred places where humanity grows, fortifies itself, and becomes better. In much of her early work, Marie was encouraged and assisted by her husband, Pierre Curie. Work was such a driving force of her life that it's impossible to imagine her marrying anyone other than Pierre, an important scientist in his own right. In 1895, the couple became intrigued with the German Wilhelm Röntgen, who discovered X-rays, and the French scientist Henri Becquerel, who was studying the fascinating rays that were emitted from uranium. Building upon the work of these two physicists, Marie found her life's obsession, adding 2 new elements to Mendeleev's table, polonium and radium, and researching them further. In going on to found the prestigious Radium Institute, she dedicated the rest of her life specifically to providing shoulders for the next generation of scientists to stand on. In all she did, she was brave, undeterred. Both she and Pierre Curie fell sick from overexposure to radium. Yet, as she said in one of her most famous quotes, "Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood." She viewed science not as a source of pain or martyrdom, but as a heroic adventure. If I see anything vital around me, it is precisely that spirit of adventure which seems indestructible. Like a test tube full of the radium she discovered, Marie Curie glows with the pure passion of her commitment. As for publicity that focused on scientists as human beings,